submit to the gentleman, my mother wouldn't want me to do anything else, so I'll have to allow Michelle to have the microphone first.
Thank you. My name is Beth Unicel. Is it on?
It isn't broadcasting
okay.
to the room as a whole, only on the, what's the
And
one
I'm,
meeting? You need a minute? Oh, it's good, okay.
That's good.
Thank you.
And I am running for the Executive Council, which has long been represented by Ray Burton, as we all know, since the 1970s, in his second century of service, which I respect and salute him for. So why do I run? Well, first of all, I want to give the voters an option and not just an echo. Secondly, I'm appalled by the extreme partisan decisions that have been decided by this Executive Council in this term. Their refusal refusing general funding from the feds to study commuter rail, blocking grants for economic development, for health insurance exchanges, appointments and reappointments for very capable people, advocation of prison privatization, and privatizing of New Hampshire's Medicare program. Councilor Burton has embraced the label North Country for District 1 as almost a faraway, unreachable place, which I respectfully disagree with. If you look at Mr. Burton's map here, you can see the very large area that District 1 is. We are part of the whole state of New Hampshire with the same needs, infrastructure needs, communication needs, transportation needs. So I think that we have to think of ourselves more broadly here as part of New Hampshire and not a separate part. We have separate needs as far as the rural aspect goes, but I think we need to become more part of the state in that sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Burton?
Yes. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to appear here at this forum. It gives my worthy opponent and I a chance to listen, a chance to explain why we're running for these various positions throughout the state of New Hampshire. The Executive Council was recently redistricted by the General Court, the House and the Senate, and on this corner of the state, I lost the town of Belmont, but did pick up Middleton, Milton, New Durham, and Brookfield. And at the top of Merrimack County, the legislature added in New London, Wilmot, Hill, Danbury, and Andover, making up the required 263,000 people of the 108 towns spread across all parts of 7 of New Hampshire's northern counties. I've been there now 34 years with 9 different governors. I can tell you I love my job, have fun with it, but I work at it. And you might say, well, why are you running again? Well, it is to administer. Now, I'm not a lawmaker, like some of the folks are running, and like Jeff Bradley and other people who are in the House and the Senate. We are like a board of directors. We carry out what you, the citizens, want through your lawmaking branch. They send 2 things down the hall to the Government Council. They send the budget and they send the law. And we must carry it out. We can't change the law, but it is our duty to make sure that it's administered. The Government Council employ 350 commissioners and directors. The Commissioner of Education, the Commissioner of Health and Human Services, the Colonel of the State Police, 350 different commissioners get their job by being nominated by a governor and confirmed by at least 3 of us on the council. We also have the responsibility of the appointment of dozens, and I mean dozens, of people to boards and commissions that are ensconced in New Hampshire state law. And I can say very proudly that in this past term, I've convinced Governor Lynch to appoint bring to the council over 100 people from Council District Number 1. Very key that we in the northern part of the state of New Hampshire, wherever it is, whether it's here on the eastern border or whether it's over on the Connecticut River Valley, have people serving in those various positions. It was very interesting. The largest contract ever to appear before the Government Council was the Medicaid contract. $2.3 billion. The lawmaking branch said to us, through Health and Human Services, it's unsustainable. We don't have $16 million on an annual basis to fund all of the Medicaid clients in the state of New Hampshire, about 40,000. You've got to do something about it. To the credit of Nick Tupas, Commissioner of Health and Human Services, he put this out to bid. To the top, and came through the bidding process, 3 companies. In essence, what they're going to do is they will manage each Medicaid client, helping them to better understand their needs and how we can save, in this case, $16 million on an annual basis. There are dozens of things I could go on. This brochure here lists the 6 reasons I'm running for Executive Council again, and what I've accomplished in the past 2 years here. Thank you very much for including both Beth and I in this. I consider Beth, Lucilla, and Gino very strong, community-minded people here in this region.
Thank you. All right, first question for the candidates. Do you support expanded gambling?
Well, I don't believe this is a decision the council would make, but I have the same reservations that were expressed earlier by the 2 Senate candidates. I think that casinos at some point might have worked well for New Hampshire. I'm not so sure about that now. Probably the Rockingham area, in a limited way. I think there would have to be some strong guidelines in place before I could fully support it. But certainly as an avenue of extended revenues for the state, I think it's something that we should look at least.
I've always supported expanded gaming to allow a full menu of opportunities for tourists to come here and citizens alike. And that includes, obviously, the support of the Powerball program, the expanding of the megabucks, tri-state megabucks. I can tell you, based on my knowledge of the state budget, we are in need of some new cash. I'm not on the lawmaking branch, so I'm not out advocating taxes, but you get the sense very strongly, at least in my district, or our district here, that there is a need for new cash, but nobody wants to raise any taxes. And I would point out, it's not my district. Just because I've been there 34 years, you might say, oh, Ray, you're going to win anyway. Not so. I have a very worthy opponent. Always have had competition. But this is your district. It's not Ray Burton's district.
Thank you. And it's true that while I think that specific question, do you support expanded gambling, is not a direct, if you will, a relationship to your authorities within the executive branch. Certainly, I think at least I feel that we look to those people who represent us and have this closest alliance, if you will, with the governor's office, and how you feel on various issues like this that affect the people is important. That's why people would know. In that same light, because this district is what we call the Northern District, and certainly this question is important to your particular district and the constituents. We face diminishing resources with natural capital. How will we have more jobs if we deplete forests, soils, air, and topsoil fuels? How can we have jobs? One of you can represent.
I'll be glad to start. Obviously, the tourist industry is very important. We are an economy, particularly all over the state, of a wood industry. And we're also very supportive in this state of the wood-to-energy industry. There are 6 wood-to-energy industry generating plants in the state of New Hampshire. It's very important that we have a clean environment, and I will say to the credit of the Environmental Services Department of the state of New Hampshire, they have, I believe, on balance, governed the air resources, the water resources, and also those issues that have to do with keeping our environment clean.
Well, certainly, as Councilor Burton has pointed out, the wood industry is a big industry for us up here. We should do everything we can to keep that sustainable. I think that there are new industries that could be introduced to our area. When you go up to further northern towns of the state where there used to be lumber mills and so forth, it's kind of sad to see no viable industries replacing them. I believe that such things as in telecommunications, maybe calling centers instead of when we pick up the phone to get some information, we're reaching Pakistan or India. I don't see why those kind of jobs could not be brought to the state of New Hampshire. And certainly the tourist industry, we have to keep the state clean and beautiful and attractive to all these people that come up here, and we need to do that with an infrastructure that we have in place. We have to keep the improvements, get rid of these porta potties on the road. I think that's pretty insulting to people traveling up here. New Hampshire has always been such a welcoming place. I can remember years ago my father saying how he knew when he hit New Hampshire coming up from Massachusetts driving through to visit relatives in Canada, how wonderful it was, the state of New Hampshire, how clean and how great the roads were, and I think we have to make sure that those elements are in place.
Next question. What is your stand on the Northern Pass project?
Well, the way it stands right now, I am against it. I can see no good reason to spoil our environment this way. Who wants to look out at those towers? As a project in general, if there could be a way that this could be buried, I would probably change my mind about that, but I haven't heard any really viable way to do that. But as it is now, I am against it.
December 27th, 2010, I was the first public official to publicly announce I was totally opposed to Northern Pass as proposed. The thing should be buried. But the company, public service company, Hydro-Quebec, said, well, this maybe triple or quadruple the cost of it. It's still in play. To the credit of the state senate and the governor and the House of Representatives, a special committee's been set up. It's in the law. They meet twice a month to look at the possibilities of burying that line. It goes right over the top of the state of New Hampshire. We get no electricity from it. It will devalue the land over which it goes and, in my opinion, ruin some of our views, which obviously are very much a part of our tourist industry and why people come to enjoy our state.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to ask each candidate to have a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you for coming here today and for inviting me. I have been a resident of New Hampshire since the late 1980s. I've been involved in politics in my own county as a Democratic county chair. I've been a foster parent. I was a paralegal before I moved up to New Hampshire. And my husband and I have started and run 2 small businesses in the state. I am disappointed, to say the least, in what has happened with our political system, the amount of money that is coming into this state, the whole country, but in particular in New Hampshire right now. I think it's really kind of discouraging for our democratic process. Just this week, a $2 million TV ad came from unknown sources to support one of our congressional candidates. At least in this case here, we certainly know where Mr. Burton's finances come from, because they are all listed and they are numerous. Unfortunately, I do not have those resources. I have not fundraised. This is my second time running for the council. I made up my own little card here that has some information about me that I'd be glad to pass out. And my few expenditures to date have been what I spent on a few signs, these cards, quite a few tanks of gasoline, as you can see, traveling around group, District 1. But I do have a full-time volunteer chauffeur, my husband, Gino. So I'm able to enjoy that part of the process of campaigning. If I'm elected, of course, I promise the voters of District 1 to approach each issue with an open mind and make decisions based on the best interests of all New Hampshire. I appreciate that all of you are here today, and I ask for your vote on November the 6th. Thank you.
As a member of the Executive Council, each councilor casts about 5,000 votes every 2 years. There's no way that everyone in District Number 1 would agree with every vote that I cast. But I have great respect for those who come to me and say, you are way off base on this, Ray. I wish you'd rethink this if it ever comes up again. We are administrators of state law and state budget. Once in a while, obviously, I appear in the lawmaking branch on behalf of a town, county, or city, or a business, trying to help them understand and hopefully craft and pass laws that would be beneficial to employment, jobs, and the culture that all of us in New Hampshire have enjoyed and cared for and fought for in the various positions. I'm very fortunate. Over the 34 years, I've had great opponents. You won't catch me saying anything derogatory about Beth and Gino. With great respect for my political opponents as they come down year after year. But this seat belongs to you. It doesn't belong to me. And I can tell you that if Beth wins this campaign, I will be the first one to call her, and we'll have a smooth transition so that she'll get up to date on what the votes are and some of the pending projects that we have. Thank you again very much. I appreciate it being here.